Hello friend, it's great to see you and welcome back. Today, I'd like to talk about this game, Balatro, something like that. This is a early 2024 release developed by an independent developer named Local Thunk, Canadian developer, shout out, and published by PlayStack Games, who has a couple games I'm familiar with, Mortal Shell, Case of the Golden Idol, and a few other mobile titles under their belt, but not developer I've really dug into the games on, I guess. This is the special edition physical copy of the game, which is pretty cool. A lot of big things happening for this game recently. So just this year alone, the game has sold 3.5 million copies, which is very impressive within less than a year. It's, of course, independently developed, so that's, I'm sure, fantastic news for Local Thunk. And the game was nominated and won Best Independent Game at the 2024 Game Awards. And there was some recent controversy as well that caught my eye, which was Local Thunk kind of discussing Peggy's rating conclusion for the game of 18 plus, which, as you can see in this title, it's rated E for everyone. 10 plus, I guess, is the rating. And Local Thunk was basically saying, and I'll quote it here, since Peggy gave us an 18 plus rating for having evil playing cards, maybe I should add microtransactions, loot boxes, a real gambling to lower that rating to 3 plus, like EA Sports FC. That is quite the burn. That is quite the burn. And, you know, in my perspective, I'll say that Local Thunk kind of has a point. I mean, there is a misdistribution of ratings dependent upon who's part of the ratings boards and how much influence they carry. And unfortunately, as a independent Canadian developer, Local Thunk is kind of at the whims of, you know, their decision making. So I've been playing this game for the last couple months. I've probably played 30 plus hours or so, and so I was really happy when I saw that the Game Awards nominated and discussed this game, and that so many people such as I are discovering it as well. And so I figured I would talk about it on this channel. I don't think I'm completely done with the game because it's one that I just continue to pop into my system and casually pick up and play. But I feel like with the amount of time I've played it now, I have a wide berth understanding of the mechanics, how the game works, and have formed opinions about the game that I wanted to share with you today. So before we do that, let's just look at this physical copy. It's very cool. I like that it's a special edition, being that it is the only edition, to my knowledge. And we see on the front a couple of Joker cards, which if you play the game, you'll become very familiar with. And otherwise, I just really like some of the features of the art design. The text is really cool for Balatro here. It's very simple, and also quite simple on the spine as well. And then turning to the back, we get a little bit of info. Balatro is a hypnotically satisfying deck builder where you play legal poker hands, discover game-changing jokers, and trigger adrenaline-pumping, outrageous combos. And then we just see some card building mechanics on the back. And that is a pretty good description of the game. It's a roguelike deck builder. And so kind of how the game works is, we'll discuss that a little later. I want to tell you a little bit about more of the history of the game and, of course, continue looking at the case here. I'm getting ahead of myself because I'm just excited to discuss the game. So if we open it up on the inside, what we have is, of course, the disc, which has that repeating art that we see on the front, but is a little more wholly built out, I guess. And then also what comes in this special edition are 2 packs of various Joker cards. One of the things I have not ascertained is if these are unique cards, like per case or whatnot, but also the completionist, or like the collector in me says, don't open these, leave them alone. So I haven't opened them. Maybe will eventually, but I'm curious what's all on these. But anyways, these are kind of representative of some of the special cards that you'll find throughout the game. So I thought that was pretty cool. Okay, let's pop this on the shelf and we'll start talking a bit more about the game. So Local Thunk, he's been working on this game, he or she, I actually don't know, has been working on this game for more than 2.5 years now. And kind of, it started in development and finished in development in a free open source framework engine called Louvre, which I'm not actually so familiar with. But when doing some research on Louvre, it seemed like it's widely used in indie developer spaces for creating 2D games. And so Balatro kind of fits that bill. It was originally meant to be part of several smaller games that Local Thunk was just developing for his friends to hang out and play. He plays a lot of online competitive games, and this started as an idea for one of those. And where it originated from is there's a game, a Cantonese card game called Big Two, which I wasn't so familiar with before I started researching and learning more about the game and its history. So Big Two is played by the distribution of a 52 card deck amongst 2 to 4 players. So everyone gets their card hands, and then from there they essentially will play poker hands, and whoever can get the most amount of their cards out of their hand, to my understanding, maybe I'm kind of messing up the rules here a little bit, they win. And there are a few other things, that there's some special rules if you have 3 card in your hand and so on and so forth, 3 of diamonds, I believe. But that's where it started, was Local Thunk building this online platform for playing Big Two with his friends. And from there, it really transitioned to a single player experience when a lot of his friends were saying, you know, this is a really fun game and it's an idea that should continue to be developed, and surely there's more to that story. But mostly was just inspired to begin working full-time on the game, so quit their job and began developing Balatro. And really started as a resume builder, and surely now with the sales, that's kind of maybe the trajectory has transitioned a bit for them, so congratulations. But the rest is truly history at that point. So that's a little bit of the history of the game. Let's talk about the game itself. Like, how does this function exactly? And so to give you a little understanding, to start, you choose from an assortment of decks to begin the game with. So the couple of basic ones you'll get up front are a deck where you add an extra discard opportunity to your hand, or maybe get an extra hand to play per blind, and so on. And later you will unlock ones with unique features. So that's kind of cool, such as starting with specific vouchers, which vouchers are like permanent unlocks that are good to be as buffs for the remainder of the run that you're on. And from there you kind of start your first blind. And so there are 8 antes to win the game, and each ante has 3 blinds, and they increase in difficulty. And by increasing in difficulty, that means it increases the number of chips required that you need to get to win the blind. And the chips are obtained through playing various card hands. So you have a high card, a pair, 3 of a kind, 4 of a kind, flush, straight, all in basically your standard poker hands, full house, etc., 2 pairs, etc. So when you play these, you'll get a certain multiplier and a certain amount of points. And ideally you play the right hands, you get the amount of points to move on, and then once you've done so, you will win money, depending on how many hands left over that you had that you could have played, and also by completing the round. So when you do so, you get randomized purchases that you can make. So sometimes maybe you'll be able to buy joker cards, which are wild cards that buff kind of certain plays or certain types of plays or certain cards. They might add multipliers, or they might give you a buff to your multiplier on each hand you play, and so on and so forth. And then there's celestial cards. So these permanently boost your hand's chips and multipliers. So if you get a celestial card for a 2 pair, when you play a 2 pair, instead of giving you 50 points, maybe now it gives you 75 points, for instance, and maybe instead of a 2 multiplier, you get a 3 multiplier. You get the vouchers that I was describing that you can purchase, or you can also get like cards that you can put into your hand that have special perks. And there's also like tarot cards, which will give you certain buffs and things for a specific blind that you're playing, or for specific cards, and so on and so forth. So, and from there you start the new blind and you go forward. So ultimately that is the gameplay loop. You play the hand, you buy some stuff, you kind of strategize, and hope that you can make it through all 8 antes and into the endless mode, which is where the game gets really fun to see how far you can really push yourself. And what I want to really express is that the game is simple, and because of that, the game is very addicting. And I found myself many times, whether I lost or won a run, saying to myself, okay, this is going to be my last one tonight. I have an idea in my mind of something I can do with the deck. I'm going to try to do this last run and take it from there. And there's just that slightly added bit of randomization that always keeps you kind of coming back and seeing if you can get just lucky enough to where you can win this one and take it forward. Because of course the hands that you draw each blind are going to be different, and you're going to have to kind of strategize what you want to discard, what you're holding on to, what kind of combos and hands you want to set up, and so on. And because of that, while the game is limited in scope, it remains very creative. Sometimes I would just straight buff the 2-pair and pick up jokers that would enhance the 2-pair, and other times maybe I'd get a chance to use tons of spectral cards and create chaos, destroy all my jokers and buff a specific one or copy a specific one. And so the amount of creativity present with that limited scope is very impressive. And I would say interacting with and digesting all the information on the screen starts to become secondhand and very natural, though when you first start the game, you'll probably wonder, what are all these numbers, what's all going on? I really started to feel over time that I was understanding the game's mechanics to an extent that I could begin to manipulate them with some degree of accuracy and expertise to begin racking up an insane amount of points on each run. And of course, when you fail each run, you will unlock new types of cards that you add to your collection and might show up for you to purchase and continue to improve your ability to make it towards the end of each ante. And so that gameplay loop was just very addicting and very enjoyable. I had a lot of fun with it, guys. That's what I really want to say. So really at large, I don't really have true negative opinions on the gameplay. I found it engaging and very immersive. And the only two things I could probably say is that I don't think it's nearly as fun to watch someone spectate as often my wife does. We would sit down on the couch and we would play this game together and pass the controller back and forth and see who could do the best on a run. And a lot of the decision making and kind of strategizing is going on in your mind. And so it's not as fun to really sit down and just watch someone choose different card hands and so on, at least in my opinion. And another thing I'll say is that this could be totally random. I don't know for sure, but I swear this game was messing with me at plenty of times. I would get a card that would do, like, this is dramatic, 2-pair. If you play a 2-player, you're gonna get 8 times multiplier. That is sick, because if you have that and you're playing 2 pairs, well, you're just gonna dominate plenty of blinds and get through that run with no problems. But then the game would, I swear, I'm not kidding, guys, it would never play me a 2-pair option ever, and I'd have to go through and start discarding all the cards that I could to to really set up a 2-pair. Maybe that's just me kind of imagining that there's some kind of bias happening in the programming of the game, but I had it happen enough where I was really starting to think that might be a reality. So, but maybe that's just me. Who am I? I'm Charlie from It's Always Sunny with my hand, like, and I'm pointing at the board and there's like writing all over the wall. That's probably what I sound like, but that is what the experience was like. So I don't know if that's purposeful, if that is random or so on, but it is something that I found to entertain myself with, at least the conspiracy theory that the game was really trying to make me fail. So the gameplay, it's just really fun. It feels natural over time, and I love the fact that it began to build to a point where I was starting to think I can really manipulate this to get to the end in the way that I think is best. So from there, I always talk about story, and so let's kind of dive into the story. There's not really one to the game. This is all a personal journey, and aside from a rude comment here or there from a joker if you lose a round, you're going to have to be very intrinsically motivated to continue playing. And trust me, you will want to play more of this after you've gotten your hands on it. And personally, I don't think the game really needs a story as a result. It's meant to be quick and casual, to pop in, turn on, and you can begin playing and doing a run in 30 seconds maybe. So that was something that I've really found enjoyable about the game. And maybe I won't play it for a couple days, I'll pop it back in and I'll be right back to where I was, just grinding away for a couple hours, which flew by very quickly for me. From a sound lens, there's basically only one core song in the game, at least as far as I could identify. This song is truly iconic, and I have found myself with it stuck in my head constantly as like a drone just in the background of things that I'm doing. And the song is very comforting and warm. It feels at times just slightly dissonant with some of the notes that it plays, and kind of floats in the air when it plays. And something to that really certainly makes me think of like I'm sitting in kind of a smoky, dingy casino in front of a machine, you know, playing these card hands, and there's just such an atmosphere to it. And again, it's just a point to me that the sound and the music that you put in a game is so important, because it really builds the atmosphere and the vibe. And that was alive here when I was playing Balatro and enjoying it. So really love the sound. Graphically and visually, I think this game has a very intriguing art style. It is a 2D game comprised of sprites, to my understanding. And I love the way this looks blown up on a big screen. It looks very sharp and clear. And when engaging with some of the extra options, such as using the CRT filters or the amount of shake and motion that kind of plays as cards are getting drawn and you're pressing buttons and stuff, just the experience adds a really nice touch. You turn down the lights, you're kind of immersed in the game, and I can't really, you know, judge this from a next gen lens, because it doesn't really fit the bill of like, oh, we're pushing the graphics to the limit. But when I think about this more artistically, I think the package just comes together so naturally. It builds such a nice atmosphere from the way it sounds, the way it looks, and just pulling me into the gameplay style. And I have to really emphasize that, because I'm not a person who plays card games or gambling. I've just never really engaged with it. I've never gambled in my whole life. I've played a little bit of Texas Hold'em or solitaire here or there a couple times, but I'm not familiar at all with a lot of that. But I found myself getting to the point where I was so pulled in to this game that I just had to sing its praises. And so really I understand and recognize why this game won Game of the Year. Well, in the best indie game, I guess, at the Game Awards, I should probably clarify. But for me, it is up there as a game of the year, just in the lens of how engaging and how simple it can be. And because of its simplicity, I just think it makes for a very fun experience once again. So, have you played Balatro? I'd recommend picking up this physical edition. It's just fun to have in my collection if you are thinking about buying the game. If you have played Balatro, I would love to know your experience, if you enjoyed it, if maybe it's not your thing, what you think about my perspective on it as well. Always appreciate that. And otherwise, just want to say that I really do appreciate you watching the video. And if you like the video, please like the video and subscribe. Would love to have you join the community and come chat with me about games on a weekly basis. So once again, appreciate you being here, and stay well, stay healthy, and I'll see you next weekend. All right, bye guys.